What is salsa? Salsa is flavor and spice. Salsa is Latin soul. Salsa es ritmo, rhythm. It started in Africa con la conga, skin on wood. El bongo, the basis of salsa, el clave. El ritmo de África al Caribe, Puerto Rico, Santo Domingo, Cuba, México, Sudamérica. Here mixed with the Indian, el timbal, el güiro, todo ritmo, la maraca, el clave, and now the heartbeat, the soul, el corazón de la salsa, the bass. Aha! Woo! From Europe, Europa, the 88s, el piano. Yeah! The sons and daughters came to the United States. Here with the influence of jazz.
Salsa did not arrive quietly. It announced itself in sweat and brass, and drumheads stretched tight with memory, and rhythms that refused to stay still. Born of oceans crossed and borders redrawn, salsa is the sound of history learning how to dance. It carries Africa in its pulse, the Caribbean in its voice, and the city in its stride. This music is not decoration, it's declaration. Every clave strike marks time, every groove asserts presence, every turn on the dance floor becomes an act of survival. Salsa is what happens when movement becomes meaning, and when rhythm becomes identity, when a people transform displacement into power. In this video, I'm breaking down where salsa comes from, how it migrated from Cuba and Puerto Rico into the United States, and why it became one of the most powerful diasporic sounds of the 20th century. I'll unpack the core elements that make salsa work: rhythm, politics, movement, and how those same ideas continue to shape modern music today. With that being said, let's get into it. Salsa is often described as festive, colorful, or celebratory. And while all of that is true, those descriptions tend to obscure what salsa actually is: a highly organized musical system born from forced migration, urban density, and cultural negotiation. Salsa and Latin jazz are not just genres that emerge in isolation. They are the sonic result of people moving, sometimes by choice, but often not, and carrying rhythmic knowledge across geographies. Understand salsa as a sound, one must understand it as a diasporic process, rather than a fixed national tradition. The rhythmic foundation of salsa originates in Cuba, where African rhythmic structures merge with Spanish harmonic language, instrumentation, and song forms. This blend produced genres such as son cubano, rumba, and danzón, each contributing essential elements to what we would eventually evolve into salsa. These genres established the core framework of salsa, characterized by clave-based organization, call and response vocals, syncopated bass lines, and cyclical grooves designed for social dancing. These musical systems weren't just aesthetic choices. They served as cultural technologies, a means of preserving memory, community, and identity in the face of displacement and colonial rule. The transformation of these Caribbean traditions into what is now salsa occurred primarily in New York City during the mid-20th century, as Cuban and Puerto Rican migrants brought their music into dense urban spaces and into direct contact with jazz. In this environment, Afro-Caribbean rhythm absorbed jazz harmony, improvisation, and orchestration, while maintaining the rhythmic authority of the clave. The term salsa emerged as the unifying label for this evolving pan-Latino sound, one that reflected shared diasporic experience rather than a national origin. Salsa thus developed as an urban, transnational music, shaped as much by migration and politics as by rhythm and dance. What many people don't know is that Puerto Rico played an equally essential role, not only as a cultural contributor, but as a political and migratory bridge. Puerto Rican musicians absorbed Cuban forms while infusing them with their own poetic traditions, social commentary, and performance practices. By the mid-20th century, these traditions were already in conversation before they ever reached the continental United States. So, thank you, Puerto Rico. Shout out Bad Bunny. The most transformative movement in the evolution of salsa occurs not in the Caribbean, but in New York City during the mid-20th century. Waves of Cuban and Puerto Rican migrants settled in neighborhoods like Spanish Harlem, Washington Heights, and the Bronx, bringing their music into direct contact with American jazz. The encounter of the two genres didn't dilute Afro-Caribbean rhythm. Instead, it expanded it. Before the rise of Afro-Latin jazz, jazz was already a dominant placeholder in American cultural life. It was the sound of nightlife, modernity, and artistic rebellion, and it functioned as both popular entertainment and high art, shaping social spaces, influencing fashion and dance, and serving as one of the clearest expressions of Black American identity in the early to mid-20th century. Jazz contributed its harmonic complexity, its extended forms, its improvisational practices, while Afro-Caribbean music imposes a strict rhythmic logic that jazz musicians must submit to, often unwillingly at first. Clave does not negotiate. Latin jazz emerges from this tension, jazz harmony floating over Afro-Cuban rhythmic structures, governed by the clave. Salsa develops alongside it, as a more dance-oriented, socially accessible form, often driven by large ensembles and audience participation. Importantly, salsa becomes a pan-Latino identity. It is not Cuban music played abroad, nor Puerto Rican music with jazz harmony. It's a new urban sound shaped by shared displacement and a collective expression. Labels like Fania Records helped codify this identity, but the music itself was already doing the work. After the Super Bowl halftime show, it's safe to say that salsa's influence doesn't just end in the 1970s. Its rhythmic sensibility extends into contemporary genres, but most notably reggaeton. While reggaeton's dembow rhythm has roots in Jamaican dancehall, its structural logic, its loop-based grooves, its bodily insistence, and rhythm as narrative force draws heavily from Afro-Caribbean tradition. Modern Latin pop and reggaeton artists frequently sample salsa recordings, reference montuno structures, and reintroduce horn lines, reaffirming salsa's role as a rhythmic ancestor rather than a nostalgic artifact. Salsa did not disappear, it just learned how to wear new clothes. Today, the influence of salsa and Afro-Latin music echoes far beyond the dance floor, shaping artists across genres and generations. From Ruben Blades to Eddie Palmieri to Celia Cruz to Bad Bunny, J Balvin, Rosalia, Lin-Manuel Miranda, Robert Glasper, Terrace Martin, and even producers and bands pulling from Latin grooves in hip-hop, R&B, and electronic music. You hear it sampled in horn lines and syncopated bass patterns, and rhythms that privilege the body over the grid. Salsa's artistic legacy is not just confined to tradition. It lives wherever groove is treated as culture, wherever rhythm carries memory. So the question becomes, how does salsa make you move? What is it about this music that pulls the body before the mind has time to analyze, that turns listening into participation, and sound into motion? To answer that, we have to get past genre labels and into structure, into the mechanic of the groove itself. What follows isn't necessarily a universal rulebook, but rather a functional analysis. 5 interconnected elements that explain why salsa feels the way it does, and why it continues to succeed as both dance music and cultural expression. All right, so I'm recording this video, or not this video, I'm recording this part of the video a little later than the rest of it. I edited the first bit and then I recorded this part, and I'm already noticing that this video is probably way too long. So I want to try and condense all this information into very quick bits, so then you can kind of get the gist behind the sound of salsa and Latin jazz and all of that. So let's scroll through that video that I showed you guys earlier. There it is. the clave.
The basis of salsa, el clave. El ritmo.
I guess here he's using a jam block, but usually the clave are a set of sticks put together. But the clave itself isn't an instrument. The clave is an organizing principle based on a rhythmic pattern, whether in 2-3 or 3-2. Son clave, as the rhythm is denoted, dictates phrasing, it dictates the melodic contour, harmonic rhythm, and a lot of the arrangement decisions that go into Latin jazz and salsa. In salsa, instruments don't just play with the clave, they exist because of it almost. A melody that ignores clave, it's probably going to feel awkward regardless of the technical proficiency, and that's why salsa can sound so deceptively simple while being extremely difficult to execute convincingly. Like I said before, the clave does not negotiate. Told you. Now let's keep going here. There it is. Right here. The bass.
From Europe, Europa, the 88s.
Now, obviously, the bass is just an instrument. Every genre of music is always anchored by the bass, but it's the specific rhythm that this bass is playing that I want to point out. We call it tumbao. It's the rhythmic engine of salsa, most commonly associated, obviously, with the bass, but also with the congas. Tumbao creates a looping, forward-moving groove that resists that resolution. Because it's not about complexity, it's about consistency. That driving bass and those driving congas force the music to move. Unlike a lot of Western bass lines that really emphasize the harmonic motion, the tumbao prioritizes rhythmic placement, specifically in its relationship to clave. The result is a groove that feels grounded but perpetually in motion. Without tumbao, salsa loses all of its sense of inevitability. That tumbao helps to create my third bit, danceability. The danceability in salsa is not accidental. Clearly, it's engineered. The drive of the salsa emerges from the interaction of tumbao, the clave, and the tresillo, which in the 3-2 clave is the 3. And that creates this rhythmic tension that feels compelling. The groove is repetitive, but it's not static. Big difference. It allows dancers to anticipate while still being surprised. Because salsa doesn't ask if you want to dance. It's just gonna guess that you already are. Now let's go back in the video to take a bigger look at this entire band, because I want to talk about salsa instrumentation. That instrumentation reflects its communal origins. Rhythm sections operate as interlocking systems. Congas, bongos, timbales, each occupy distinct rhythmic roles. The piano provides harmonic rhythm through montuno patterns, while the horn section delivers sharp and percussive statements rather than sustained melody. Vocals function conversationally, often employing call and response that collapses the boundary between performer and audience. Every instrument has a purpose, and excess is discouraged because efficiency is part of the groove. And since we're talking about vocals, despite its reputation as party music, salsa frequently functions as social commentary. Lyrics address themes of migration, economic struggle, colonial history, racial identity, and urban life. Even love songs are often situated within broader narratives of longing and displacement. Salsa's political power lies in its accessibility. Serious messages delivered through music that invites participation rather than withdrawal. One can dance while receiving a lesson in history. That's the power of salsa, to use its politically charged lyrics and its danceability to make an impact, both in America and at large, now worldwide. Salsa is best understood not as a genre, but as a method of organizing rhythm, community, and movement. It speaks for the people that traveled miles to get here, so then they could mix with other people who've traveled miles to get here, just so they can create something beautiful, because that music is built on discipline, and it requires incredible work and sacrifice, but it produces freedom, structure, which produces joy. Its endurance lies in an adaptability which represents the people who created it, and its power lies in its insistence on rhythm, on identity, and on motion. Salsa moves because everyone who created it had to. And thank God for us, it still does. Thanks for watching.